Evening, everyone. Welcome to the City Board of Directors meeting for this evening on October 1st, 2018. Tomorrow is National Night Out, where we're going to be visiting with community members throughout the city relative to the public safety issues that are so very important to us and the importance of our neighborhood associations throughout the city. So that's why we are meeting on Monday, which we have previously announced a couple times for those people who may not remember that. So with that said, Madam Clerk, if you would please read the roll.
Director Hendricks. Director Richardson.
Here.
Director Pack. Director Hines.
Present.
Director Wright.
Here.
Director Wyrick. Director Compuris. Director Fordson. Director Adcock. Vice Mayor Webb. Mayor Studla.
Here. Let me ask City Director Ken Richardson for our invocation, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we first thank you for all the blessings that you bestowed upon us. We thank you for our wonderful citizens and our wonderful employees. We pray that you keep our citizens and our employees safe and secure. We pray that your will be done and that we make decisions that are going to be best for all of our citizens and that we're guided by your will and your guidance. These things we pray for. Amen.
If you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have several presentations this evening to take care of, and I'm going to call on our City Beautiful Commission to take care of our City Beautiful Landscape Awards. And I see we've got members of the commission here. Please, you're welcome. Come forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board of Directors, again for allowing us to present these awards every year, taking your time to do it. We have three Best of the Best awards. Again, this year was a hard decision to choose the winners, but we did it. The nominated landscape awards involves commercial, instructional, multifamily, or subdivision development within the city limits. Nominated landscape developments must be in place for 1 year and have demonstrated excellent design, implementation, and continual maintenance, including voluntary upgrades and enhancements that go beyond the city requirements. Previous winners are not eligible again for 5 years. So let's get to it. And if I could get a director from the ward of the winner to come help present it, that would be great. The first one is Ward 2, J.A. Riggs Tractor Company, Director Richardson. And representing Riggs is Don Langford. He'll come up here. You'll get, we've got a sign for you to take to your property and display it. We have a plaque for you and a rose. We'll give you this, take a picture.
Before Ken gets too excited about this, I think this is in Ward 7.
Is it?
So B.J. Wyrick wants to make sure that she is given proper deference on this. And it is her birthday, so if you all would join me in wishing her a happy birthday.
All right.
Happy birthday, B.J.
I apologize, Director Wyrick.
He's also my neighbor, so
Okay.
that's double.
Okay.
Come back. We'll share them.
Got that?
Come around here. Here's the flag for here in the middle.
Me in the middle? What middle? Right here? Straight.
Thanks. Okay. Mr. Langford, if I can get you to say a few words about your property. We have on the screen display as you talk.
Okay. On behalf of Jay Riggs, just want to say thank you guys. We appreciate it. We strive to better the community. We work very hard to make our facility look very nice every day. But just the award kind of reaffirms what we do, and we appreciate that very much. Thank you.
All right, is there a representative from South Village here? You, Charles Stewart? Yes. Okay. I didn't see you downstairs. Didn't get there. Steve Homer. He has property on on Louisiana, South Village Apartments. Beautiful property, beautiful landscape, well maintained. Yes. If I got Ward 1 right, I do. Oh, really?
He is. You gonna be in?
I am.
Thank you. To the board and to the City Beautiful Commission, I thank you for this recognition. When we built South Village in the Quapaw area in Soma, we wanted it to be transformative for that particular area, and I think we have achieved that. It's been very, very well received. We've had a 90% plus occupancy since the day, well, a few months after we got our certificate. And so we just enjoy being a part of that great community. It's just seeing it evolve and continue to develop has been a dream that is being fulfilled, and we thank you all for your support. Thank you very much.
Charles, I'm sure you meant to give those flowers to Director Hendricks, is that right?
Deserves them. Yes. Give her.
I think they were originally intended for you, but
I believe that, but
she will appreciate them as
I would love
much,
for
I
her
know.
to have them. I would love for her to have them.
My light's on.
And you're recognized.
Yeah. Charles, come back to the mic. Charles did tell you what the apartment is all about, but I wanted to let this board know that Charles did contact me initially because across the streets he had a serious problem of an apartment with, you name it. And is what I did. I called. I think Mr. Moore was aware. But that's the reason why it's good and clear over there. I did my duty.
It's just a great neighborhood and a great place to be. Thank you, Mr.
Director Ryrick.
Yeah, I want to go back to the first award. Part of J.A. Riggs' tractor is in Ward 7, and part of it is in Ward 2. So I just wanted to clear that up. We both claimed it, but actually
I'm glad you all got that worked out.
yeah.
For those of us that represent the entire city, we like the fact that it's in both wards.
Well, we're collaborative, and so we share our businesses.
Oh, golly. You didn't know you were going to have so much fun tonight, did you?
Okay, the final award is Windrock International down on Riverfront Drive. And Vice Mayor Webb, she'll come down, please. Huh? Well, this says Ward 2 on my paper, so I'm might have to find out about this. It's Ward 3.
This is Ward 3.
And Chris Hancock is here with Windrock International. to accept the award. And Chris used to be a commissioner on the City Beautiful Commission. So.
Keep it straight now. You don't wanna.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of Windrock International. We take great pride in the quality of our landscaping, and it really means a lot to be recognized with this award. I also like to thank Mayor Stodola and each of our city directors for all that you do to maintain and improve and enhance the beauty of our capital city, as well as our City Beautiful Commission, which works hard to uphold our standards and advocate for quality and everything from adopt a street litter cleanups to recognizing good examples. So I want to recognize those efforts. And then also I'm joined by a special guest, Quinn Best and his son Braxton. It's no understatement to say that we would not have been given this honor without all of his work. He has maintained the quality of our landscaping since before the building was constructed. So this would not be possible without Quinn. Thank you.
If I may, for just a minute, I'd like to second everything, Chris. I'd like to thank the great people at Windrock, our VP and CFO, Mike Myers, our facility manager, Mr. Bud Smith. Like most law enforcement officers in this state and other states, you find a way to supplement income. I'm in my 21st year as an Arkansas State Trooper, and I'm very proud to serve the state of Arkansas. But as Chris mentioned, I was working there and maintaining some properties for Windrock before they were developed. And then when they moved down off the mountain in December of '04, I believe it was, they decided to keep me on, and we've just had a great relationship. So proud to work there, proud of the people, proud of what they do, and I appreciate this honor. Thank you for letting me be part of it.
Well, congratulations to the three winners, and thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
And let me just mention, we've got some very hardworking people on our City Beautiful Commission. Billy Woods is the chair, Steve Holmeyer, vice chair, Robert Cushman is the treasurer, Melissa Henshaw, Michael Harvey, Wally Lovelace, who's with us, and Ed Peak as well, Robert Winchester, and Justin Blagg. Thank you all for the hard volunteer work that you do on our commission. Certainly, the beauty of our city is not just reflected in the people, but also in the wonderful things that people are doing to keep their properties up and make it beautiful. And we, as elected officials, oftentimes we receive information from people out of town who tell us what a beautiful city we have. And so I just want to thank you collectively for all the hard work you've done to make us proud. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, thank you for the time for us to present these awards. I do want to thank one other person, Stacy Hurst, for donating the roses. She's done it every year since we've given out awards, and we really thank her for doing that. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, the next item that I'm going to take care of here has to do with the a drawing. I understand we've got some tickets for a Razorback game, and I hope there's still some people who want to go to the Razorback game. So we're going to have a drawing, a NUSA, National USA drawing, for the people who are going to be the lucky winners of, I think, is it 2 Razorback tickets? Oh, we got a couple of extra things too, huh? Okay. Neighborhood USA is going to be coming back to Little Rock,
Absolutely.
and we've got a great team of people here. Let's. Why don't you tell us what we're drawing for first?
Go ahead and grab the ticket. Now you can have a seat. Thank you. Oh, I got 2 here.
Sean has his medals on that he's won in the Special Olympics, and I would like for him to come back up there so we can see his medals. This is Carrie's son.
Okay. Joan has been trying to get me to do this for months, but we on a tight schedule. And I haven't even had an opportunity to congratulate you for winning your electronic newsletter that you put out every
Well,
Monday.
thank you, thank you.
But Keyshawn, who was diagnosed with Down syndrome at birth, was told by the doctors that he may never walk or talk. I started to bring him in his Taekwondo uniform, which is a purple belt.
Wonderful.
And this year, for the first time, he participated in the Special Olympics at Harding University for the state of Arkansas. He won first place in the relay. That's his goal. And he won second place silver for 25 meters. And this
Well,
is their-
congratulations. We're very proud of you.
And Director Peck over here, she's had the honor, and we consider it an honor too, to work with her in cooking matters. So thank you all for giving us this time for that. You can have a seat. Now down to the business of why I really came here this evening. The City of Little Rock Neighborhood Association annual fundraiser for the National Noosa Conference. That's why we're here. For those who donated to the fundraiser by purchasing a ticket, I know the ticket said October 2nd, 2018. However, due to the National Night Out, which is coming up tomorrow, and the City of Little Rock Board will not be meeting tomorrow, we had to change the drawing date. Not to worry, this is the same raffle ticket. Each year since 2004, for me personally, we have sponsored 4 fundraisers to raise monies to help send a team from the City of Little Rock to the Noosa Conference every year. Next year, the conference will be held in Palm Springs, California, May 15th through the 18th, 2019. And this is our first fundraiser, which is we call the Arkansas Razorback versus the Mississippi Rebels. This is an autographed football from the coach, and we have a bag. We have an Arkansas Razorback bag that goes with it. And this first fundraiser, we printed off 280 tickets. We sold 263 of them. And we want to thank everybody that helped us in being a success with this drawing. We just want to say thank you for those that supported us. Our next fundraiser is slated for the 25th of 2018, which is called our Christmas raffle. Please keep us in your budget. All donations are tax deductible. Also, in 2020, the City of Little Rock will host the National News Conference here. So put that on your calendar and sign up to help the City of Little Rock News Conference to be the best ever. We have lots of committees that you may want to sign up for. Unless Director Adcox or Dwight Pritchard has something to add, we will do the drawing to see who's going to be the winner of the football raffle. We also have free parking space and 2 tickets. The tickets are right here. And the winner is Emogene Rand. Thank you so much.
Director Adcock.
Mayor, I am very, very proud of Team Noosa in Little Rock. We are the only city in the United States that 100% of the money that we use going to Noosa, between $20,000 and $24,000 each year, is raised by Team Noosa. The city does not give us money. In Birmingham, it comes out of CDBG money. Other cities fund it completely, but we're very proud when we go to Noosa because we know that we've paid our way to go. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, at this time, I'd like to ask our new Executive Director of Rock Region Metro to come forward. We'd like to welcome you, and I know you've gotten settled.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Directors. My name is Charles Frazier, and I have been a public servant for almost 25 years, the last 18 years serving the citizens of Palm Beach County, Florida. I am particularly happy to have relocated here to Little Rock to serve the citizens of Central Arkansas. And really, it does feel like coming home. It just so happens that my father was born in Malvern, and I've now learned that my grandparents have an extensive family in the area. So it feels quite good to be here. At Rock Region Metro, our mission is to provide safe, reliable, convenient, and cost-effective transit service. And what we're really doing when we're doing that 7 days a week is providing access to opportunity. It's opportunities for jobs, opportunities for education, opportunities for health. So I would like to thank you for your continued support, and I look forward to serving you and the citizens of Central Arkansas.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Charles. And we want to welcome you and embrace you warmly in your job and responsibilities. You know, the issue of transit is so very, very important to our citizens in all parts of the city, and in particular to make sure that people can get to their jobs, and obviously some children to get to school, and certainly to college. I just recently returned from a conference, a mayor's conference, and the disruption of transportation in every form was a major topic of conversation. And one of the things that was addressed was obviously a new type of disruption, perhaps in the area of public transit, dealing with the mini transit and finding a way to be more effective and more responsive and a little bit more quick in terms of the reliability of a transit system. So I hope you will look into this idea of a mini transit system that might make our systems a lot more effective and more usable by more people. And it just was a very interesting discussion, and I'm looking forward to your leadership at Rock Region Metro.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Okay, we've got a few, there's a lot of stuff going on this week, some days and this month, and I've got 3 proclamations to take care of. So I'm going to go to the podium, and I'll present these in just a couple moments. This first proclamation is focused on a very important health issue that continues to be a major issue for the country, actually, and it has to do with breast cancer, and it has to do with obviously the Go Pink for the Cure Day. So I'm very pleased to issue this proclamation, which reads as follows: Know you all people by these present greetings. Whereas the pink ribbon reminds us that breast cancer is the most commonly diagnosed cancer in women and the second most common cancer cause of cancer deaths in women in the United States. However, when breast cancer is detected early, there can be a 95% 5-year survival rate. And whereas 30 counties in Arkansas do not have a fixed mammography facility, and this creates a big barrier for many women to easily access mammography, thereby possibly increasing their mortality rate. And whereas it is estimated in the United States that 266,000 women and 2,550 men will be diagnosed with breast cancer during 2018, with approximately 40,920 women and 480 men who will die of the disease. In Arkansas this year, regrettably, it is estimated that 2,160 new cases in females will be detected and 410 breast cancer deaths will occur. Whereas October is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and October 5th is designated as Go Pink for the Cure Day to bring awareness of the importance of mammography and to renew its commitment to removing obstacles that prevent women from seeking mammograms. Now, therefore, I, Mark Stodola, Mayor of the City of Little Rock, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim October 5th, 2018 as Go Pink for the Cure Day in the City of Little Rock. In witness hereof, I have set my hand and seal on this first day of October 2018. And I'd like to present this, I believe, to
Stacy.
Stacy, if you'd come forward. I know this has touched virtually every family in our state and in our city. Certainly my family, as well as I know many of the other families of members of the board of directors as well. So very important. Stacy, if you will accept this, please.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
The next proclamation also addresses a very important issue that becomes more increasingly in the news about the issue of cybersecurity. And this proclamation reads as follows: Know ye all people by these presents and greetings. Whereas the city of Little Rock recognizes that it has a vital role in identifying, protecting its citizens from, and responding to cyber threats that may have significant impact on our individual and collective security and privacy. And whereas critical infrastructure sectors are increasingly reliant on information systems to support financial services, energy, telecommunications, transportation, utilities, healthcare, and emergency response systems. And whereas the Stop, Think, Connect campaign serves as a national public awareness campaign implementing through a coalition of private companies, nonprofit and governmental organizations, as well as academic institutions working together to increase the understanding of cyber threats and empowering the American public to be safer and more secure online. And whereas the National Institute of Standards and Technology cybersecurity framework has been developed as a free resource to help organizations, both large and small, both public and private, improve their cybersecurity practices through a very practical approach to addressing evolving threats and challenges. And whereas maintaining the security of cyberspace is a shared responsibility in which each of us has a critical role to play, and awareness of computer security essentials will improve the security of the City of Little Rock's information, infrastructure, and economy. And finally, whereas the federal government of the United States and the United States Department of Homeland Security, along with the Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center, the National Association of State Chief Information Officers, and the National Cybersecurity Alliance recognize October as National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, with all citizens being encouraged to visit these sites along with the City of Little Rock and to stop, think, and connect, to learn about cybersecurity and to put that knowledge into practice in their homes, their schools, their workplaces, and their businesses. Now, therefore, I, Mark Stodela, Mayor of the City of Little Rock, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2018 as Cybersecurity Awareness Month here in the City of Little Rock. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and seal on this first day of October 2018. And I'd like to present this to Randy Fauci, our Information Technology Officer, and ask him if he would like to say a few words just about how it affects the City of Little Rock.
So first, I want to encourage everybody, off the city's website, under the information technology site, there's a link to Stay Safe Online. If you go to that link, you actually have all kinds of resources that will help you in securing your personal life as well as your business life. So when you think about security, it really stops with the person, because the person is the weakest link. So we encourage everybody to familiarize yourself with security issues that are out there. Pay attention to those emails. You probably really don't have that cousin in Africa that's leaving you multi-million dollars. So think about those things before you click on them. All of those things are important. When you open those things, that can be the one thing that opens the door to the next big hack. So again, I encourage you to visit the city's information technology page. The Stay Safe Online link there will take you to resources to help you. Also help you talk to your children. There's links out there to help you with that as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Randy. And there are some links that were recognized in this proclamation, and if you would put those on your city website too, that would be helpful. Some of those national links.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Very good. Thank you. This is a special week as well, involving our fire department and the issue of safety, and I would like to read this proclamation, which reads as follows: Know ye all people by these present greetings, whereas the City of Little Rock is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living and visiting in our city. And whereas fire is a very serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, in homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire, according to the U.S. Fire Administration and the National Fire Protection Association, in 2015, people living in Arkansas had the second highest risk of dying in a fire than anyone else in the U.S. general population. And whereas between January 1st, 2018 and September 20th, 2018, there has been 21 civilian fire fatalities reported by the U.S. Fire Administration for the state of Arkansas. And whereas cooking equipment is the leading cause of home structure fires and associated industries, injuries, and the third leading cause of home fire deaths, along with heating and electrical equipment and smoking materials. And whereas the risk of dying in a home structure fire caused by smoking materials rises with age, and home candle fires are reported to a U.S. Fire Department every 3 minutes on average. And whereas Fire Chief Delphone Hubbard and the men and women of the Little Rock Fire Department are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection of and education. And whereas the 2018 Fire Prevention Week theme, look, listen, learn, be aware, fire can happen everywhere. Now, therefore, I, Mark Stodela, Mayor of the City of Little Rock, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim October 7th through the 13th, 2018, is Fire Prevention Week here in the City of Little Rock. In witness thereof, I have hereon to set my hand and seal on this first day of October, 2018. And Chief Hubbard is with us to accept. Chief?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, to this board, to City Manager Bruce Moore. We, the men and women of Little Rock Fire, really do appreciate this acknowledgement. As the theme is stated, be aware fire can happen anywhere, and that's what we're going into the communities, expressing to the residents of the various homes as we're conducting smoke detector checks, as well as residential in-home fire safety tips that we could share with them to impact the death toll as it relates to fire in a positive manner. Thank you all again.
Thank you, Chief Hubbard. Director Hendricks.
A question.
Yes, ma'am.
It was mentioned in the mayor's proclamation. Have we had a loss at all of life since you've been here with us?
In the state of Arkansas, there has been 21 fire fatalities this calendar year. In Little Rock, Arkansas, we have had one this year.
Okay,
And
thank you.
we want to keep that number. We wanted it to stay at 0, but unfortunately,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you very much for your hard work, and please extend our appreciation to the troops.
Yes, sir.
You bet. Okay, that takes care of all the presentations. We can now move on to the consent agenda, items 1 through 10. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the consent agenda.
The consent agenda consists of a motion to approve the minutes of the September 4th, 2018 and September 18th, 2018 Little Rock City Board of Directors meetings. A resolution authorized the city manager to enter into a contract with Timco Incorporated in the amount of $255,025 for the purchases of a street sweeper for the Public Works Department and for the purposes. A resolution authorized the city manager to execute a renewal contract with Hydraulic and Air Sales Incorporated for a total amount of $50,000 for the Fleet Services Department and for the purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Nick Ruffin Excavating Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $576,326.40 for improvements to 24th Street from Walker Street to Vancouver Street and for the purposes, funding from the 2012 3/8 capital improvement sales tax. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with Online Construction Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $100,620 for Biscayne Drive drainage improvements north of Illinois Street and west of Glen Abbey Court and for the purposes, funding from the 2012 3/8 capital improvement sales tax. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with James A. Rogers Excavating Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $620,388 for Mableville West Road improvements from Mableville South Road to South Loop Road and for the purposes, funding from the 2012 3/8 capital improvement sales tax. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with Nick Ruffin Excavating Incorporated in amount not to exceed $476,940.30 for Woodson Road improvements from Halifax Drive to Browning Road and for other purposes, funding from the 2012 3/8 capital improvement sales tax. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a cooperative and cost-sharing agreement with the Little Rock School District to construct improvements on Mableville Pike from Helm Street to north of Rich Smith Lane and for other purposes, funding from the 2012 3/8 capital improvement sales tax. A resolution authorizes the city manager to award a professional engineering services contract for the design of the 2019 to 2021 capital improvement projects, funding for the proceeds of the 3/8 capital improvement sales and compensating use tax and the 2018 capital improvement bonds for street and drainage and for other purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into contract with the Lion Insurance Company in the combined total amount of $968,385 for property and casualty insurance for city buildings and structures and for the purposes. That concludes the consent agenda.
There's a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I want to ask Mr. Moore, I noticed that under the consent agenda, you have items listed for wards 2, 4, 6, and 7. Nothing for 1. Where does this money, where's it coming from? What pots?
Director Hendricks, the sources are listed there as far as whether it's the sales tax or the bond issue. But I would also say, just at your last meeting, there's been a lot of projects from Ward 1. All of these projects, again, this is the second round of funding, so all of these projects have been approved by this board. All of the money was...
From where? To tell the community from
Again, the 2011 sales tax and the 2012 bond issue.
Okay. I'll have something to tell them when they ask me, okay?
Okay, but again, I do think it's important, and one of the things, I hope everybody's glad to see these projects coming forward, but it's been very equitable. Again, just our last board meeting, there were a significant number of projects in Ward 1.
But that was last year. This is another
Last board meeting.
last board meeting. Bruce, you know I'm going to argue with you. Thanks. Oh, he's okay, as long as he answers me.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. The resolution are passed. We have no citizen communication this evening, so we can move on to the grouped items 11 through 13. First reading, please.
An ordinance, the grouped items, an ordinance to approve a plan zone development, establish a planned commercial district titled Hillcrest Little Bakery, revised short form PCD, located at 201 and 203 North Van Buren Street, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes, an ordinance to modify the existing contract with Waste Management of Arkansas to provide curbside recycling services within the corporate limits of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid for an additional 2 years on the contract, to authorize entry into a contract with Waste Management of Arkansas to provide curbside recycling for solid waste customers until March 30th, 2020, to declare an emergency and for the purposes, an ordinance to establish standards and specifications for the restoration of excavations and cuts in streets and or alley rights-of-way, to provide for a permit process, to establish fees, penalties, and permanent restoration reimbursement costs, to provide for the administration and enforcement of the process, and for the purposes. First reading.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place this ordinance on second reading. Before I ask for a vote on that, let me call on Director Campuris, please.
We can go ahead and put it on third reading, but when we
All right.
get ready to talk about it, that's what I want to talk about.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place this on second reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, saying nay. Second reading, please.
An ordinance to approve a plan zone development, establish a planned commercial district titled Hillcrest Little Bakery, revised short form PCD, located at 201 and 203 North Van Buren Street. An ordinance to modify the existing contract with Waste Management of Arkansas to provide curbside recycling services within the corporate limits of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid for an additional 2 years on the contract, to authorize entry into a contract with Waste Management of Arkansas to provide curbside recycling for solid waste customers until March 30th of 2020, to declare an emergency. An ordinance to establish standards and specifications for the restoration of excavations and cuts in streets and alley rights-of-way, to provide for a permit process, to establish fees, penalties, and a permanent restoration reimbursement cost, to provide for the administration and enforcement of the process. Second reading.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place these ordinances on third and final reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Third and final reading, please.
An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned commercial district titled Hillcrest Little Bakery, revised short form PCD, located at 201 and 203 North Van Buren Street. An ordinance to modify the existing contract with Waste Management of Arkansas to provide curbside recycling services within the corporate limits of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid for an additional 2 years on the contract, to authorize entry into a contract with Waste Management of Arkansas to provide curbside recycling for solid waste customers until March 31st, 2020, to declare an emergency. An ordinance to establish standards and specifications for the restoration of excavations and cuts in streets and alley rights-of-way, to provide for a permit process, to establish fees, penalties, and a permanent restoration reimbursement cost, to provide for the administration and enforcement of the process. Third and final reading.
Okay, I've got 4 directors who wish to speak or comment, so let me, I'm not sure if you wish to speak all on the same item or not, but I'm going to call on Director Campiers first. I think he wishes to talk about item 13.
Yes, sir, please.
Go ahead, please.
John, can you come up? I've looked at this since last week, and I think we are making a terrible error in not having more draconian fines or ways of making sure that the streets are done correctly. $25 to the people we're talking about is nothing. And it makes very little sense to, at least to me, to pass an ordinance that where one of the biggest complaints we have day in and day out is street cuts and not having them done correctly. And we're going to say to people that if they don't do it right, we're going to give them $25 a day. Is that right, John? Or
50.
What?
50.
50, how often? A day?
50 a day.
I think that does not really, that's not a, it does not send the message, at least that I would like to send to these companies. And I think it would not be very well supported by the people of this city that that's the only thing we can do to make people toe the line. I don't think we probably can go back and say we can withhold permits. Is that right, John? Or Tom?
That might be an answer or a question for Tom.
Can we withhold permits if they don't do it? Further permits?
It depends on what they are. I mean, the major problem facing all cities right now is that the Federal Communications Commission has issued a new order. It's in the 30-day comment period, and in that order, they take away just about all the authorities of local governments to deal with their rights-of-ways for communication, fiber, those types of data, video, and telephonic transmissions. Whether you could do it for sewer or water, it's a different issue, but at least for those, which are the majority of them, I think, you really don't have a lot you can do.
Well, so if let's just say that a big company has a permit, do they have to get a permit or to do a street cut, John?
Yes, sir. Every street cut they do, they have to get a permit.
So whether we're talking about AT&T or Verizon or any of them.
Yes, sir.
So anytime they do it. So what happens if we don't like the way they've done street cut A? Can we say that we revoke their permit for street cut B?
That's,
In the example of AT&T and Verizon, because they deal with data, video, and telephonic communications, no.
So really our only recourse is to up the fine. Is that right?
You can up the fine. The provision here has the $50 daily fine for a period of 60 days, at which point the city has the right to make the repair to its satisfaction, charge the cost to the entity, and then it's a $100 a day fine.
it's $100 a square yard of repair, which is very different than $100 a day. That's, so every square yard of cut, they're paying $100 for that repair.
After 60 days.
Yes, sir.
Plus the cost of.
Plus the cost of the
Doing it
$50 a
properly.
day leading up to that point.
So how much,
3,000.
what's that?
Well, I mean, if they don't fix it in 60 days, it's a $3,000.
Oh, no,
plus
I
the
know
cost.
that, but I mean, I'm talking about what's the normal length of a street cut that you'd be talking about at $100 a square foot?
What, $100 a square yard?
Square yard.
So let's say it's one block, so it's 300 feet by 10 feet wide. I'm just, for the sake of numbers that I can do in my head real quickly. That's 3,000 feet, square feet.
Divided by 9.
Divide by 9. So it's like you're talking about.
Do you like my phone?
No. So it's 27 square yards at $100 a foot, so that's another $2,700 for the repair. So you're $5,700 for that particular example.
And it has to be done to our specifications.
Yes, sir. We would, if we're doing that repair, it will be done to our.
No, if they do the repairs, it has to be done.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, we go back out and inspect every one of these cuts.
What's she saying?
Well, Mr. Moore, what would you think about if we do the first week at $100 and then the second week at $200 and the third week at $500?
At some point, we talked about this earlier today, and I mean, that with the rules that the FCC, I mean, Tom's going to have to.
Tom, I've read some literature on this as well, and I think there's some language, is there not, in the proposed rules that say the costs have to be reasonable?
Right.
So when you get to a certain amount, I think we could be running into some perhaps untreaded water.
Right. It doesn't define what a reasonable cost is.
I think if you're driving on a street and they don't do it when they're supposed to or don't do it well, they ought to be fined $100 a day. I mean,
Well, let me finish with Director. All right, Director Hendricks has asked for a point of personal privilege.
Right.
What's your point of privilege, please?
This is an ordinance, and I don't see how we could sit here and determine what's going to happen with this. We either up it or down it. And Mr. Moore is to take care of this later. Tom, am I wrong? Tom's over there figuring we got a whole agenda to deal with. Personal privilege. This, what we're talking about, is
Director,
off the cuff.
Yeah, Director Hendricks,
Yes or no? I don't want to hear nothing else.
Well, is this
yes, you
germane
can
to the
consider
point of
these
personal
It is.
privilege?
I mean,
It's not.
Yes, it is. You want to go to court?
the policy decision is, do you want to have regulations for entry into our right-of-way, physically actually cutting into the right-of-way, and penalties, and part of that is the amount of the penalty.
So in other words, you can change that right now
Yes,
before we
ma'am,
vote.
before it's
Before we
passed.
vote.
then I will make
I got it.
then I will make a motion that the first week be $100, the second week be $200, and the third week be $500 a day.
I second it, but I want to hear from Bruce. I think
Well, you can't second and hear from Bruce. Make up your
All right, there's a motion and a second. Director Computers Obviously, 60 days is more than the 3 weeks, so would it, the remaining weeks stay at $500?
Yeah.
All right, so that's your motion?
Yes.
No.
3,000, it's 30,000, just 300 times 100, you know, it's gonna be a lot more expensive than his number on a 100-foot cut. Just FYI, it's gonna be really expensive. On a 100-foot street, you're gonna look at $10,000
I don't see how you can do it.
But
It's wrong.
by the square yard.
It's
A
wrong.
100-foot by 300-foot cut.
My point is that this is a penalty if they don't do it right on a timely fashion. Is that correct?
yes,
So, I mean, we're talking about the way that you avoid this is you just do it right the first time when it's supposed to be done.
Sorry.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
There has what?
Your
You
second is
withdrew your
withdrawn. Director Adcock has seconded the motion. Discussion on the amendment. I've got Director Adcock and Director Wyrick and Vice Mayor Webb that, you want to speak on something else or on this item? Well, let's take the first one first, okay?
Mr. Moore, he was trying to answer and he didn't get.
Is your mic on? Is your mic on?
Yes, it is.
Okay, speaking.
One of the things that we traditionally do is, and we did it in this case, is sit down and share the ordinance with the utility companies. You all get the complaints a lot. We hear them. And this was as a result of, this is what we're bringing forward. I do think it is important to note that most of these street cuts are done by subcontractors that the utility company hires. We do, as John mentioned, we have inspectors in place. And if we're going to make some substantive changes to the ordinance, I would like a little more time to be able to look at what Director Campiris has recommended, look at the actual math about what it would mean, and I think everybody at the end of the day wants the utility companies to not circumvent our ordinance, and that's what they were doing. And this, I think, from a substance standpoint, this stops that. It's just a matter of the penalty piece, and I think, as the mayor and Thomas said, we do have to be reasonable.
And that's fine, Bruce. And I'll make a motion. We hold it for 2 weeks and let you have a chance to do it. But my point is exactly what you said. It's not AT&T or Verizon or any. It's a subcontractor who gets out there and does it, and they have no control over them. So the only way you're going to get some control over them is have something big enough where they're out there looking at it, not us looking at it.
and I will, after it was brought up from the audience, I was off by a power of 10 on my example.
That's fine.
300-foot long by 10-foot wide cut, that'll be with the 60-day penalty added on, it's $30,000. $27,000 for the repair and $3,000 for the 60 days of penalty.
But John, the whole thing is that we want it done right the first time. And if you do it right the first time, there is no penalty. So
Correct. I just wanted to clear that up. It was 30, not 3.
I second Director Campiris' 2 weeks deferral.
table it for 2 weeks.
There's a motion and a second, which takes priority, a motion to table takes priority to table for 2 weeks. All in favor of the motion to table for 2 weeks indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, well, in the meantime, review these issues and see whether or not there's anything that gets changed in the ordinance.
And Mayor, by 2 weeks, you actually meant 2 weeks and 1 day since today's Monday.
Yes.
That's correct. Thank you. Okay. Other questions on these grouped items? Vice Mayor Webb.
Thank you. My question was on number 11, and I wonder if the applicant is here.
It's me. I'm Scott Lloyd. Do you want me to come up and speak? Or sit down? Or?
Yes, I mean, I think last week somebody mentioned that the Hillcrest Residents Association had been supportive of this, and I mean, they're not against it, but I talked to a number of the people on the board yesterday. Some were for, some were against. They didn't really seem to know anything about it until I brought them up. So, you know, I was just trying to get more information about it.
Okay.
And were there neighbors opposed? So I guess,
Well, we followed all the procedures. This has been 5 months that we've been doing this. We've contacted twice now all the neighbors because we had to do it with the Beautiful Commission and the Planning Commission. So we've gone through both the postings, both the mail outs. To my knowledge, we haven't had one contact of anyone. I've been supported by everybody in the area that's come over. The other businesses have come over and talked to me. I don't know if you're familiar with the property or not. We can pull some pictures up and I can show you what it looked like about 90 days ago. I can also talk to that cut in the street because they just cut a street and dumped a bunch of concrete in my parking lot, or my future, hopefully, parking lot. But it's one of those deals that we have gone through all the procedures and nobody has said anything negative to us at all about any of our plans. In fact, everybody keeps going, well, when are your donuts going to be ready? And cheesecakes and cinnamon rolls.
okay.
Any other questions? Yes, Director Hadcock, please.
Mr. Moore, a few minutes ago when the City Beautiful people was here, they was talking about the landscaping on this property. And I would like to know if we have given waivers on the landscaping and what the landscaping is going to be.
Mr. Collins.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the board, Director Adcock, yes, they went to the CBC and requested a variance for the land, the buffer along the right-of-way and the landscape strip along A to not install it. That was just due to, if you look, there's no room in that plan to put a landscape buffer along A Street, and that was
Is there going
approved.
to be any landscaping on this property?
Yes, there will be, but it's just not, the request for the variance was along the A Street side of it.
Was the City Beautiful Commission okay with what landscaping was approved by
Yes.
staff?
Yes, they were. That was the variance that was approved. Of
Okay.
the street buffer requirement and the landscape strip to allow for the maneuverability of the cars in the parking area.
Okay, and you're okay with the landscaping as is planned?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Director Wyrick, you're next, please. Do you still have a comment?
Well, I'm not sure if Vice Mayor Webb is finished with item 11 or not. Mine's not about 11. Okay. All right. Mine was back to item, where's the street? Item 13. And if we're looking at revising this ordinance, we might look at what the Highway Department does. They almost always require a bore versus a cut. And we may just be talking about restoration here, but they're very strict about what areas that they allow to be cut. In fact, it's almost never that they do that. So if you would take a look at what their regulations are for Highway Department, it could be a different set of rules because it's highway versus city streets, but they're very strict about where they're able to cut. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the item 12, which is the recyclable contract being renewed. I think I mentioned last week that I'm hearing a lot of people that are having issues with their pickups. And I just wondered if there were any changes in regards to their act of God statement because of the ice and storm damage we had a couple of years ago and their trucks didn't roll. I think I brought that up last week.
Well, there's what they call a force majeure clause that will be in this new contract, which does deal with the issues of acts of God. Now, obviously they're going to want to pick it up as soon as they can based on the requirements, and our Public Works Department monitors that. But there will be one of those issues that deals with the acts of God that no one has any control over.
Well, but my point is that a couple of years ago, when we had the issue with them not picking up, the city of Little Rock rolled and picked up the green monsters everywhere, and Waste Management did not pick theirs up and pulled that deal with the act of God situation. So I'm thinking there should be something in there that if we can roll, they should be able to roll as well, because it was a couple of weeks before they were ever able to get back to pick up the recyclable. And I brought this up several years ago, that we needed to look at the contract, and so I wanted to see if it was ever put in there, and does it not take care of it with this next 2-year extension?
I think that certainly that information, Director Wyrick, can be added, Mr. Carpenter, when we get that draft of the contract. If you'll make sure we put some language in there that parallels the city's ability to pick up its trash with the recycling.
And do we have a follow-up with the persons that are reporting that their recyclable materials weren't picked up? Because I'm hearing a lot of people are not getting them picked up.
I think Mr. Honeywell can speak to that. I can tell you that just because we deal with this at the Solid Waste Management District, in the contract there is a provision for a penalty, and much to the dismay of Waste Management, we notify them when we get a call that recycling is not picked up, and if they don't go pick it up, then we go out and pick it up, and we charge them a $50 fine or a $50 payment for each one that we have to pick up.
I worry about those that will just sit there with their recycle bins out there waiting for someone to come, and it doesn't happen for 4 weeks. I'm aware of that happening in the last month.
It's hard for me to speak about a specific.
I reported it to Sue so she could have it investigated in your
Today,
office.
or?
No, this is a 2-week-old story, because I brought it up last week as well. Yeah.
I'll be happy to get with her tomorrow and find out
But
more
you're not
specific.
hearing a lot of problems with picking up the
No
recyclables?
more than the usual that we get for mixed recycling.
I do think that, because we saw it out on a tour 10 days ago, that, and you can see the things that are in the recycle cart that they're just not going to pick up. I mean,
They were contaminated, I agree.
they were contaminated. So we have a plan in place to deal with those. And I do think they're in certain areas of our city where we need to do a better job of educating, and that's going to be one of the other focuses of the new contract.
Yeah, the new contract has money available from Waste Management, $150,000, as well as our Solid Waste Management District that's going to be committing educational money as well. So Craig Douglas, I see, is here from our Solid Waste Management District, and we've met today, and we've met many times over the last month to try and take care of the issue of the contamination, and also recognize that the world of recycling has changed substantially, and that we've got to do a good job of trying to educate our citizens on contamination, because it doesn't do any good to try and recycle if it's not going to get to the right place.
Well, and the other part of it is if it's not picked up, and there's not an issue with it, then we're about to lose some people that want to recycle, and so that's an issue as well. And that's the ones that I'm worried about, is those that really try to recycle and do a good job and it doesn't get picked up. Thank you.
Director Richardson, you recognize, please.
I'm sorry, man. I forgot I had my button on. I was trying to get your attention back on item number 13, where we deferred the 2 weeks and a day ordinance. And it seems to me like Bruce had some concerns from an operational standpoint, whether or not that there's something we could do as it was presented. I just wanted to know, was 2 weeks enough time for you to come back and bring us something to the extent that we're going to be in a position to make the best policy decision?
I was thinking about that after I asked for the 2 weeks, but
that's what I was thinking.
But let me see where we are next Tuesday at the agenda meeting, and okay.
No, I was trying to get your attention, man. That's all I wanted before we even took the vote.
Director Hendricks, do you have another comment?
It was on 11.
You're recognized if you have an additional comment. You commented earlier about item 13, so I was just trying to make sure whether.
This has to do with 11. And my question is, could Jamie come to the mic, Mr. Moore?
Mr. Collins.
Did I understand you to say last meeting that there were no opposition to 11?
That's correct. There was no registered objectors and nobody spoke against it at the planning commission.
It was a man, the gentleman that spoke earlier. Were you a part of this?
That is the applicant.
As the applicant? Could he come to the mic, the applicant? Thank you, Jamie.
Yes, go ahead. If you'd come forward, please.
What's your name?
Scott Loy.
And you're the owner?
Not now. I'm acting as an agent. I'm trying to buy the property, but it's based on this approval, whether or not I'm able to buy the property.
Well, it has been approved by staff. And I know that Jamie just said that he had no opposition
Yes, ma'am.
at the planning commission. So I'm appealing to this board to give you permission as is on this agenda. I'm a fighter for people who Mr. Moore has hired to do a job, and we sit here as board members and disregard that respect. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Adcock, you're recognized, please.
Mr. Moore, while you're looking at item number 13, would you look on page 9 at section 6, lines 28 to 33? It talks about $2 a foot, that's lineal foot, square foot, or whatever, and then the $2 go to $1 after a certain time. I'd like for you to look at that. And then also, the inspection fee is $30 for 500 feet, and I'd like for you to look at that to see if that covers the cost of us sending an inspector out there, if that amount should be more. Thank you.
Okay. I think we've dealt with ordinance number 13, so let me call on a vote for ordinance number 11. All in favor of ordinance number 11 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. It was unanimous. Unnecessary, but we'll ask for a roll call. Go ahead, please.
Director Peck? Aye. Director Hines? Yes. Director Wright? Director Wyrick? Yes. Director Campuris? Aye. Director Fordson? Aye. Director Adcock? Aye. Director Hendricks? No. Director Richardson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Webb?
Yes.
By a vote of 8 to 1.
8 to 1, the ordinance is passed. Okay, we can now move on to ordinance number 12.
Mayor.
Director Hendricks.
Okay, I am supposed to vote yes.
To let the record reflect that Director Hendricks has changed her vote to one of yes on the last ordinance. So by a vote of 9-0, the ordinance is passed. Okay, we can now move on to item 12. All in favor of the passage of ordinance 12 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The ordinance is passed. And on the emergency clause, all in favor of the emergency clause indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The emergency clause is also passed. So that concludes the agenda. Let me just mention to everybody, I was trying to count the number of various neighborhood associations and organizations that we've got for National Night Out, and I think there's at least 13 or 14 locations throughout the city where many of the neighborhood associations have gathered together, and I know we all got a list, and I'd like to encourage not only just all of us, but all of our citizens to get out, get to know your neighbors, and to celebrate the fact that together, collectively, if we work with each other, we can make our neighborhoods safe and secure, and most importantly, make everybody happy. Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn? There's a second. Director Richardson has one brief comment.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Very, very briefly, and Mayor, I don't know if this goes to you or Bruce or Tom. I didn't bring this up about 4 years ago because I thought it was an aberration, but I don't know what recourse our staff would have if a sitting board member threatens their job if they don't support that board member's candidate, that candidate that they're supporting. And a nonprofit, their contract is threatened if they're not supporting the candidate that one of us is supporting. I can understand us supporting the opposing candidates. I understand that. While it doesn't do well for the esprit de corps, but I understand that. But to threaten a city employee's job if they're supporting somebody that they don't want to do, they don't want them supported. Is there any kind of recourse we would have with respect to that? Because I thought it was an aberration 4 years ago, but it's back again, and it's more than three. It was 4 years ago. Now it seems like it's about 9, and I don't know what the tragic irony is. What's the saddest part is whether or not that person was feeling the guilt or remorse, or the fact that without even naming said person or persons, we could kind of have some kind of sense of what we're talking about or thinking about. So is there any kind of recourse, Mayor, Bruce, or Tom, that staff will have to deal with that?
Mr. Carpenter?
Director Richardson, I'm not quite sure I understand if you're saying that there is a candidate for office and it's a contested election and the incumbent is threatening a contract that the city has entered because the candidate works for a nonprofit that has the contract. What I would say is that the city has entered into a contract and the contract's legal and binding, and therefore a single member of the board of directors can't threaten it. That said, without knowing more, without knowing percentages of ownership and things that would trigger the ethics ordinance, if the person is elected, they're not a member of this board until January the 1st of 2019, and then it would be up to the board as to whether the contract continues or whether the individual steps down.
Well, I'd like to do a little bit more research on the ethics ordinance. I'm talking about a sitting board member that has allegedly threatened the employment of a city employee because that employee is supporting a candidate that sitting board member is not supporting, and whether or not ethically or legally.
Well,
I would suggest to any sitting board member that threatening a city employee because of how they vote is going to subject you to liability that I would not defend you on.
Thank you, sir. I just want to hear that
So if
publicly.
in fact there's an allegation of this nature, then it probably should be made in writing and dealt with through the ethics ordinances that we have. And so if that's something to move forward, then it's up to whoever is going to make that complaint to go ahead and make it, and we'll get it to city attorney to, as I recall, it's vested in his responsibility to make the determinations on that.
Thank you, Mayor. Tom, I just want it on record.
Okay, we've got a motion to adjourn in a second. No, it's not. It's not on. Director Hendricks, we're going to have to help you with this. Well, we're happy to.
Right, yeah. The thing that I want to comment on, Ken, sometimes we sit up here and talk about stuff, and color doesn't matter with me. If I got a question, Tom, was that appropriate what you were doing here with the Director Richardson? The question that he's asking you about something out here in the streets? You know what I'm talking about. Forget it. You don't have to answer, but I just...
Short answer to your question is I was asked if there was something that the city should or could or was obligated to do in terms of candidates for an elected position.
I heard it too, but I was thinking, should he have come to you personally for that?
Well, it would make me feel a lot better, yes.
Yeah, you all operate so peculiar up here to me. I know procedure. 30 years, NAACP.
But
may
you
not
also know
recognize
that I work at y'all's pleasure, and so I'm really hesitant to say I'm not going to answer your question. That doesn't work
Yeah.
very well.
Ken knows me. He knows I don't cut corners. Color doesn't matter to me. If you're wrong, you're wrong. Or if you're indifferent, you're just indifferent. Tom, I want to ask you, are you going to have that information for me about what's happening with the courts with a neighbor who has tolerated a barking dog for
Yes.
9 months?
Yes, the attorney is back from maternity leave, and I mentioned that to her today, and she is going to follow up with that.
Do we have to wait for her? Is it anything that you could do? And I want the board to know there's a family that has been having to tolerate a dog that's been barking for 9 months.
Director Adcock, I think what she's going to do is check with the individual.
My name is Hendricks.
Director Hendricks, I'm sorry. I am now flummoxed, Director Richardson.
You don't want me
The attorney is going to get with the individual. We need to make sure that we've got the proof together that the court seems to mandate in order to give a conviction on a barking dog case.
Okay. And I wanted the board to know that this dog, I'm being redundant, but this dog would not have barked in Hillcrest, Pulaski Heights, or any of those areas for 9 months. Okay. So
The
do
dog would
something
not have
about it.
barked in certain parts of the city?
That's right. Next door to a neighbor.
Thank you for enlightening me
Next door to a
on
neighbor
that.
for 9
I
months.
did not know you could train your dogs that well, but I'm happy to
I
hear
don't
it.
have no dog.
All in favor of the motion to adjourn indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. We're adjourned.